they will also invest in infrastructure. I'll pause there, but yeah.
Thank you. Very interesting conversation. Tanzania and Kenya, and I'm sure this has been with its challenges. What would you want to see accelerators supporting the kind of enterprises like yourselves who are ready to scale doing more of? And then my second was, and these opportunities to focus a bit more on so that we have more enterprise getting to the tail end. Thank you.
Okay. I think it's important for accelerators to think global, because global is sustainable. And what has happened, or what I have seen, is that a lot of the accelerators are very localized. So what happens is you accelerate this business, it grows. We are now in Zambia and Zimbabwe, just for your information. And this is all just sourcing raw material. And we are learning a lot about cross-border trade, like, for example, the COMESA treaties and those kind of things. I think those are things that can be built into when you're building your programs or your curriculum for the accelerator. You need to consider that these businesses are going to grow, and they're going to grow global. So they need to be very broad in terms of thinking through what the programs are designed to do for the enterprises.
I will respond very quickly. Mine is that I think partnerships are critical, in the sense that we have a lot of enterprise support organizations across the region, across the different countries. What's critical is that we all work together. So almost building a pipeline, building a relationship. So it's not competition, but how do we build partnerships that you can focus on one component and the other entity focuses on the other? I like the work that an entity like Partners in Food Solutions does. We work and speak with them quite a bit, and they just focus on providing technical experts for agri.
Also sort of look at accelerators as somewhat advice providers. You know, just going back to my earlier comment, you know, not all money is equal. You need to really understand who you're sort of approaching for money, and I think accelerators play a critical role there in, you know, playing somewhat of a matchmaker role.
Investment as well, but share a list of publicly available databases with the whole group as well.
Yeah. If I can add just one, because words you used, if you're at this stage, then you need this. That understanding of the different layers of where you are, what you need, is you actually need to talk to. It's not talking to the 100, because the 100 of them, half are not even interested. They look at different geographies. There's even other color beyond the list, which is who actually has money. And I say this because I think it's important to say this about investors. There's a whole host of investors, but they invest in either funds or different structures. There are those who have completed their investment phase and are just managing portfolio. So they don't have the money to invest. And while they have done investment, they don't have what we like to use the term, dry powder. And then you have other funders who are under pressure to get money out the door because they're in their third year, they've not made any good investments. And so they're under pressure to find good opportunities. That's not in a database, it's in a good conversation you had with an investor, and they told you, man, we're struggling, we need pipeline, we need to close before December. All these are nuances in the space. What that means is, let's address investability and work with partners on the investor readiness and working through that journey. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, one more.
Two comments. Number one, the first comment about what we said about the profitability, and the last one is a response to the comments from Kojo. Why I'm taking actually the lead to respond to Kojo, because this is our role as AUDA-NEPAD, actually to really dive what he was talking about specifically. I'll come back to that. Just one comment, because when I listen actually to accelerators, but also to funders and to businesses, I have the impression that there is a gap in the conversation, because while you guys or the ones actually trying to bridge the gap, you are speaking about development, about job creation. Businesses actually are really looking for profitability. And I have always had this impression that this gap we have never been able to really bridge it. Most of the funders, for instance, here you're talking about fundraising. Fundraising is a language we use for development. We don't use that for business, basically. For business, we are looking for investors. But every time we are meeting, we are talking about fundraisers, fundraising, people who are coming to put money. It's as if it's for charity. And most of the criteria they will put are always about job creation, sustainability, youth and women empowerment, and all those things that, I just always wonder, though I work on the policy space, if we are really going to the right direction. As a matter of fact, I put a paper, scholarly reviewed paper, that my peers actually accused me of being, I would say, far right, because they told me, why? Because I say we should do policy for business instead of policy for business for development, because I don't think that we've been trying that for the last 6 years, it has never worked. So the direction I'm now taking in terms of, as a researcher as well, is to see if we just push policy for business, rather than policy for business for job creation. Otherwise we won't be able maybe to really bridge the gap. I like what she said, because at the end of the day, she was talking a little bit about profitability, but I think she's the only one, and yes.
How are you going to create and sustain jobs if you're not profitable?
You don't need to think about job for me.
No,
you think about business first.
Yeah.
So business first, because so far our big problem is we have never been able to develop our business in a way that they can create decent jobs. But they are creating jobs. The numbers, we published a report in 2020 that clearly showed that in Africa, businesses, and especially the informal businesses so far, are the biggest drivers for job creation. 2020, for instance, they have been at the, I think, at the basis of about 380 million jobs, while public sector was 60 million jobs, and the big private sector put together was at the, I think, for 65 million jobs. So private sector, the formal one, and public sector both actually put together, they create this informal sector that we are supporting, actually somehow, maybe in a loose way, they create, let's say, 3 times more jobs than those 2 things. But yet, when we go to support them, we are always putting forward, how many jobs are you going to create, decent jobs, how can you help them, help you to become more social? No, it shouldn't be that. We should. I'm also an investor, by the way, though I'm in the policy space. And what I look for, I put my money where it will bring me a good return. If there is less than 15, 20% return, I won't look to your business. That's actually how you should think as well if you want to help. But that's another conversation, we can have it elsewhere. So what I'm saying is kind of being provocative, especially for someone working for AUDA-NEPAD, because we are supposed to. Now, secondly, and I will finish here, I think Kojo was talking about the infrastructure. You see, you are asking where the money goes. But the thing is that there is no really money, because don't believe those reports, by the way. That, that's it, there is plenty of money. I speak with certainty because this is the area I manage, actually, the NEPAD, infrastructures investment. Now, we say we have a gap of about 100 to 130 billion investment gap per year for transport, energy, water, ICT. You put all those things together. And at the same time, basically what we say is, well, let's go and look for this financing. Financing, basically, there are 4 sources. MDBs, this is multilateral development finance. You have as well bilaterals. Then, of course, you have private sector and you have government. Now, during the last 10 years, and I see this report that we published last year, 2019, 2020, in average, we have put about $83 billion in infrastructure, especially transport and energy, more on energy than transport, because energy is quite, I would say, liquid. You know, return is much easier than in transport. But then governments are the ones putting the money, by the way. The biggest share of the financing is not coming from development partners, it's not coming from private sector, it's not coming from bilaterals, it's coming from our governments, from the fiscal. You can look at here, in 2018, government put about $40 billion out of 100 billion. And in 2020, of course, because of the COVID, it reduced. But for transborder infrastructures, basically, this is the area where we are working on in AUDA-NEPAD. Lateral and bilateral are both debt, government must reimburse, and only 3% come from private sector. You know, so when you say there is money, but from our governments that are being invested there, and they are really being invested there, but it's not enough. Now, the question, and I know this is not the venue for that, I will respond to you when we leave the room, is how are you going to mobilize the additional resources that we need? And I'm sure that it won't come from the traditional sources. We need to put, again, a little bit more of effort on our own domestic resource mobilization, because this is the way, and not actually go and ask from outside, because it won't come. And don't trust those statistics that you see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for their contributions. I think on the last point, I don't think we're going to figure out the infrastructure financing gap very, very quickly. Well, we need really bankable projects in order to do that. On the previous point, I think everyone agrees with you that impact is derivative of the strength of the financial strength of the organization or the project. Impact is somewhat inevitable. We're in sub-Saharan Africa. We're dealing with agri-food value chains and regenerative agriculture. We're dealing with greenhouse gas emission reduction, mitigation, sequestration. All of that is derivative of the actual activities of the organization, which is to make money. So I agree with you absolutely entirely that we should focus on how that business will be operationally successful over a long term. On that note, may I pass over to Rapporteur to wrap up?
Excellent. Let's put our hands together to thank the wonderful panel and also the moderator for such excellent moderation. We've come now to the end of our proceedings for the day. It's been quite a long day. Just a couple of housekeeping announcements. The first one is that copies of all presentations as well as reports, these could be studies, are going to be uploaded into a repository. And we'll share with you the link to access those documents, all right? Then the second one is that there's going to be a networking dinner tonight at 7:30. Now, if you have not received the invitation, then you know that you are not invited. Anyway, those that are supposed to attend should have received, and hopefully they've responded to the invitation and they know all the instructions. So please don't come and ask me about your invite, right? Yeah. Okay. Flo, you got some announcements?
Thank you, Daniel. This was a good day, and I believe we all get something out of here, and we are going back with some knowledges. Thank you very much for participating for this first day session. We are very pleased to receive you here. I just have a few housekeeping announcements for our international travelers. All those that receive ticket from me, or from NEPAD, or from E for Impact, please, you come and see me with the boarding passes and any extra receipt that you may spend like visas, transport from your home country to the airport, kindly bring them to me and we'll make arrangement to settle out what we are supposed to pay you. And for those that are living at the Radis Hotel, the transport will be ready outside to take you back to the hotel. Thank you very much and see you all tomorrow. And thank you for our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So one last request is before we go, for those that are taking part in the panels or in the exhibitions, could you remain for a few minutes just for us to discuss the proceedings for tomorrow? Otherwise, tomorrow we are meeting at 9 o'clock for 9:30. So 9:30 sharp, we will commence our proceedings. A very good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.